Hey guys, for today's podcast, I'm bringing Morgan back because I wanted to discuss something that we talked about on an earlier podcast, but I don't feel like I really got into it far enough, which is close ratio. As a former marketing agency owner, getting leads to shops, I really feel like most of the time when shops feel like they have a marketing problem, they actually have a sales problem. Basically, it boils down to this. If you are writing estimates and the phone's ringing, and your shop's empty, you're not meeting your numbers, then you've got a sales problem. But if the phones aren't ringing, cars aren't showing up, and it's just crickets out there, then you definitely have a marketing problem. And there's two paths to go down. But I think the majority of people have a sales problem, a close ratio problem. And I'm starting to see it more and more in shops as we're developing and launching our new product, Reclaimer, into the market. We're actually starting to study people's close ratios because it has a sales tool component to it that's kind of unique to the industry. And so I wanted to revisit the close ratio a little bit. And so with this episode, it's going to be me being interviewed by my co-host and co-worker, Morgan. So we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, I'm Morgan Felshner, back with Tom Zoebelein for the week. We introduced this podcast a few months ago with me interviewing you about the industry and your experience. Then you were off and running, talking to some really interesting shop owners who shared their tips and tricks. This week, I'm here again because we wanted to dig into your expertise a bit more. You ran a marketing firm for years and learned that no marketing plan can outrun a low close ratio. So let's start there. Shops are struggling, car count has dropped. What's the first step for an owner? What should they do?
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to revisit this is because, it seems like across the board right now, even the big consolidator MSOs are kind of all fighting for the same customers. Like I talked to somebody that's at one of the big consolidators that was a former client that got purchased, and he said that we're just trying our best to capture what is out there, the work that's out there. So this is not a problem that's unique to independent shops. It's the whole industry, I think, is feeling this car count, and it comes and goes, right? It ebbs and flows, but right now it seems like it's in some areas it's getting tight again, in big areas like Texas and things like that. I wanted to revisit close ratio. We talked about it with Shane Orlando, but I have a lot more thoughts on it that I didn't get into because I was interviewing him, and I wanted the opportunity to be able to kind of talk about some of the things that I think about with this. But if your close ratio doesn't improve when car count goes down, then you're going to have less cars to fix. So the focus always turns to marketing, but I think that there's only so many cars to fix right now. For whatever the reasons are, economic reasons, people are afraid to go to their insurance company because they don't want their rates to raise. This could be temporary, this could be long term. Maybe it's the ADAS stuff, is less cars to fix. Whatever it is, it's not improving right now. It doesn't seem like. Although I do talk to some shops that are busier than they were. So basically the thing is, I don't think you can market the deficit, but you can, sales fixes everything, right? That's always the quote is, sales fixes everything. You have a revenue problem, increase your sales, and then the cash flow comes in, and then you have the revenue to start fixing the other problems that you have downstream. So focusing on close ratio and increasing it. But the surprising thing is that it doesn't take much to fix it, and I have some real examples of that too. But it doesn't take long to fix it, and it doesn't take much to fix it. Like we're talking sometimes just closing one or two more people a week is the difference between you making ends meet and not, or hitting your revenue and profit goals or not. So yeah, that's what I wanted to focus on.
So when you were in your marketing firm, you were getting these calls, I'm sure, from shop owners saying, our car count is down, help, we need to spend more money and get more cars in the door. And I'm sure you're happy to take their money for marketing, but there was probably a lot of frustration that went with that because you were delivering leads, but then they might have been just sort of falling flat. So what's your biggest frustration when it comes to this issue with body shop owners?
Yeah. So you're right. It was always good for business. Low car count, good for business. Busy shops, bad for business on the marketing side of things. And it's a knee-jerk reaction that car count's down, I got to get cars. I need to hire a marketing agency. And the reason for that is because we do have this insurance component and this reputation component to body shops. So there are shops out there that don't spend a single dollar on marketing. They don't even have websites. Even in 2026, they don't have websites. Even pretty decent shops or shops that have been around since, say, the 50s, they don't have websites. I always found that shocking because I believe that it's a convenience thing to your customer. And if you care about your customer the way you say you do, at least have a website. But, with Google My Business pages and having your phone number and address and photos of the shop, you can get away with not having a website. You can get away with not having a digital presence because Google provides one for you. But so it's a weird thing selling marketing to the collision and repair industry. It's not like roofing companies where that's their whole gig is to just market, get cars, or attorneys, or there's a whole lot of verticals that I could have gone into, but I only know cars and collision. So that's why we started the marketing agency there. But because of that, people feel they can turn on and turn off marketing. And they feel like it's an instant switch, like a light switch. Like, oh, I got this problem. I need more cars next week. Let me just hire this marketing agency, and they'll perform a miracle for me. And the guys will be busy, and I don't have to lay anybody off. It just doesn't work like that. It takes us time just to get a campaign up, and then let alone having it dialed in and producing results. So we always, the barest minimum we had for a client was like, I need a 90-day commitment. I need 30 days to get it up and running. I need 30 days to monitor it, make tweaks. And I need 30 days to show you that they're consistently producing for you. Mm-hmm. And, obviously we wanted them for longer than 90 days, but it's a 90-day minimum commitment. And it was also my way of weeding out people that were looking for like some desperate quick fix. But I can't tell you how many times we got people on and they would just light up our phones every day, like, where are the cars? Where are the cars? Where are the cars? It's like, hey, you hired us last week. What do you, like, give us some time here, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, marketing can fix some things, but sales fixes everything.
Yeah. So let's. I think you're hitting on something that is interesting there. With marketing and what the marketing firm actually does. Before we get into, you've handed them a bunch of leads and now it's their turn to take them and run. Can you explain to us what the marketing firm actually does when you bring in an agency?
Right. Yeah. So, it kind of depends on the marketing agency. There are a few that service the collision repair industry specifically, and those are probably the better picks because, like my agency that I sold, Stratosphere Studio, we still serve the collision repair industry. There's, Mickey Woods has a marketing agency. Daniel Burkholder has one. There's several focused, Phoenix Solutions. There's several that names that people know. If you don't have to teach your marketing agency the collision industry, then typically they can kind of get going. But if you're bringing somebody in that's like a local, because that would be the other thing that I would see is they would hire like a local company, like a guy that serviced, greater Boston area or something, right? And they did a little of everything. They weren't specialized in anything other than regional marketing. Not saying there's anything wrong with those guys, but there's a learning curve. They're going to have to learn that you can't just market like you can an electrician or a plumber and your ads land and get leads at the same proportion because you got to get to people that are in market for something that is very specific and it's insurance driven. Your first move when you get into an accident is to call your insurance company who is starting them down the path. You get a roof leak, your first thing is to start searching for a roofing company. So that's where marketing connects you to a prospect a lot faster and at a higher percentage than it does in collision repair because we've got DRP programs, we've got insurance companies that are guiding the hand of the consumer. So the trick to digital marketing for collision repair is to get in front of that customer, figure out how to identify them and get in front of them, and then serve them messaging. And our messaging was always just, we assumed that they've already spoken to a Caliber or Gerber or whatever, and so we offered, our whole marketing pitch was a second opinion. It was very effective. Our clients stayed with us for, some of them since the day they started. We had a lot that were just there for the whole run until maybe they sold the agency, sold their company or sold their shop, or I sold the agency. But, so when you hire a marketing agency, again, it kind of depends on the marketing agency. So if the first one, the non-collision specific, they're going to want to do discovery call. They're going to want to learn about the industry, learn about your business, learn about this and that. And then they're going to go back and kind of figure out some campaigns, and they're going to figure out what budget you should spend and where your customers probably are. They're going to learn about, you're going to have to educate them, Of hiring a marketing agency that specializes in collision repair, you don't have to do that. They're going to just get started on messaging and tactics. And most people have their own approach to it. We were heavy on geofencing. I believe heavily in geofencing. We had a lot of success with it. There are companies that are SEO agencies where their focus is on search engine optimization. We did SEO as a piece of what we were offering, but never the heavy lifter. That was never the horsepower behind our marketing thing. And because first of all, most body shops are kind of ranking pretty well anyway, unless you're in a really heavy market like Mesa, Arizona, and there's just tons and tons of shops, or like in the Los Angeles area. But if you're because the radius around your shop is fairly small, like people aren't going to drive unless you're in a specific model, like you're in a Rivian and you're going to go to a Rivian shop, and you may actually go across state lines even. But if you're driving a Toyota, or a Ford or something like that, you're not going to go, 40 miles away to a body shop. So you're when you do a near me search, you're showing up. I mean, there's just not a lot of body shops. If you're a mechanic, different story. There's like 4 times the number of mechanic shops for every auto body shop. So I never really believed in SEO as the right thing, and I also felt like SEO was a bit of snake oil. There was always like these companies in India that would do an SEO package for $500, and I would have to compete against that. And I would always ask these guys, like, what could you do for $500? Like, how good do you think this is? Right. Forget that it's in India even. Like, what do you think you're really getting here? They're going to go on the back end and they're going to fix some headline text and stuff like that, and they're just going to bill you that $500 because they know that you don't know what they're doing. There's no way to double check their work, and you're going to Google a body shop near me while you're sitting at your desk in your shop, and you're going to pop up because you're the closest body shop to where you're searching from, because you're searching from your body shop. So yeah. I felt like SEO is a little bit snake oily. I don't love it as the main lead tactic. The second reason for that is AI is changing all this stuff too. I Google. I don't know about you, Morgan, but I Google much, like a lot less. Yeah. Even in my when I do Google, I'm using the AI Google in my like my phone or whatever. I'm skipping over the actual Google bar anymore. Right. So
it's changing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with that one too is that's chasing the wind, right? Like you ask it 5 times, best body shop near me is going to give you 5 different answers. Whereas if you did that with Google, it's going to be the same results over and you ask it 100 times. So I'm glad I'm kind of not in the agency space right now because of the AI SEO, because that would be a real challenge. I don't think anybody really knows what the secret is. I don't know that there is a secret. I don't know that there's a way to crack the code on this. Now, there are some things that you can do. There are certain places to be, have some content in. But if everybody goes and does those things, what's going to make you any different, Right. So I think it really comes down to reviews, reputation, number of reviews, things like that. I think it pulls heavily from that, makes a decision. But it's whereas Google was very algorithmic. Like it had very consistent outputs. You put in this, you consistently got this. With AI, it's not algorithmic like that. It's totally different. So anyway, back to your question. Like what, I think you have to do paid ads. I just think that whether it's Facebook ads, geofencing ads, pay-per-click ads, but even then, like the pay-per-click ads, with the fact that we're not searching the way we used to, I don't even know if pay-per-click is. Although, now the AI is starting to run ads. So, and also in certain markets, like things like Yelp and stuff like that are kind of like in out west, like Yelp is used a lot more than we use here in the East Coast. So, so there's and then there's like those like neighborhood, what's the thing like what's it called? Not Next Door. Yeah, Next Door. Mm-hmm. That was an area that we never marketed in. Probably not a bad idea to throw a few bucks in there and see if it generates anything. But anyway, so a marketing agency is going to have their kind of recipe of what they think is right. Now, we started out with our recipe. It was geofencing heavy, Facebook ads secondary, Google AdWords tertiary, and then a little bit of SEO if we felt like you just really were just not showing up at all. Like I had, usually for me, it was when you changed the name. Like you were once this and now you're this, and I needed to get Google kind of seeing the name, and so we would do some SEO work there and put you in all the directories and things like that, or a brand new shop. Right. So that was our formula, and then what we would do is we would monitor those numbers, and then we would change tactics when we saw one thing doing better than another. That's the other thing too. It was never 100% consistent. Like if you do these three tactics, it's always going to produce this. Well, some areas, I think maybe it had to do too with the nature of the demographics of where your shop is located. Like, what's the place in Florida that has like an older retirement community?
Villages.
The Villages. So we had clients in the Villages, right? And a lot of the digital marketing stuff didn't work at all there. So we had to change some things around. So demographics, I think, can drive the results. So a good agency is going to be fluid. Ability to change tactics and monitor it. Like that's what we did. We monitored those numbers every single week. We had dashboards that I spent $35,000 building the dashboard that ran Stratosphere Studio, and so that was Brazil dollars too. So in the U.S. it would have cost me I don't even know what. So that pumped all the data in. It made this master dashboard, and we could see our clients, like what was moving the needles, and when it was dropping, and then when we needed to make changes. Because I never wanted a client to call me and tell me, "Hey, the phones aren't ringing." Mm-hmm. Like that's the thing that kept me up at night. Is a phone call that the phones aren't ringing. Yeah. Dead shop, that's a different story, and that's what we're going to talk about on this episode. I got no cars to fix. That's a whole nother story, but the phones aren't ringing. That's the scariest phrase you could ever tell a marketing agency person.
Right. So they've chosen their marketing shop. The phones are ringing, but it's still not getting better. And I think that's sort of the central thing here is marketing can't outrun a sales problem. So, so how do you fix it? Where do owners start when it comes to close ratio?
Yeah. So I'm going to walk you through an observation that I made on multiple occasions. So as you know, Morgan, I spent a lot of time in body shops, weeks at a time sometimes with these guys. Part of it was when we were building Voltonic, and I would embed myself in shops because we were testing the scheduler, we were studying parts, or whatever we were working on. So I've been in dealership shops, I've been in independent shops, I've been in MSO shops. I've been in shops that, most people, if I mention their name, they would know, oh, I know those guys, right? I would shadow people. I would shadow the parts guy. I would shadow, I would follow the production manager around, and then one of the things I did was I shadowed the front office people, and I watched them sell, and I listened, a lot when I would be sitting there. And so I'm going to walk you through a real story, real life observation. So there's a shop, I'm not going to mention the name or where it's located. And they have 3 estimators and the owner. Two main estimators, and then like a main estimator slash insurance liaison kind of a person, general manager type. And so I walked out when customers started showing up at the shop. They are a heavily OEM certified shop. That is what brings they're a fully independent, non-DRP shop. So every customer came to them because they researched them and decided that this is a shop that I want to fix my vehicle. So, and Tesla being one of them, and they fix a ton of Teslas. So I walked out with this front office person, and Tesla pulls up, hit in the back, as they almost all of them are, and the customer comes out. They go outside and they look at the vehicle. The CSR leans down, kind of looks at it, kind of touches on the bumper a little bit, and says, "Yeah, I think there's probably you're looking at $7,000 to $12,000 on this. Have you filed a claim yet?" And the person was, "No, I haven't done that yet." And then they would say, their response was, "Okay, well, I'm going to need you to do that. So go ahead and go file the claim. And when you've done that, call me back, and I'll get you in, and we'll get you a real estimate here." And so that person gets in that Tesla and drives off the lot. Mm-hmm. That happened one time. Then a couple hours later, another Tesla pulls up. Follow the person out again. This Tesla was so brand new, I could smell the new car smell as this woman pulled up. And she pulls up right to the bay doors. You could literally see into the shop. And same thing, look at the car, it's hitting the back, pressed on the bumper, looked at it and said, "You're looking at from here to here, and have you filed a claim yet?" Again, "No, I haven't filed a claim yet." "Okay, well, I really can't help you now, so, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but I can't really do anything until you get that started. So when you go get your claim filed, call me back, and I'll schedule you in for an estimate." So both times I followed this person in, and they went to their desk and they put a note in the CCC, and I said, "Well, what's the next step here?" "Oh, I'll follow up in a couple of days to make sure that they filed a claim." And that was the end of it. So let's say that those were $12,000 jobs. That was $24,000 worth of repair work that I saw that CSR basically say, you come back when you can help me, when I can do my job." Yeah. Instead right of like, "How can I help you?" So here's how I would have done it. So the first thing I would have done, the first customer is, I would, first of all, I would just engage them in a icebreaker conversation, something like, "This is a really nice Tesla. I love these cars. Why did you decide to buy a Tesla?" And just get them talking about the vehicle. Then I would use that to whatever they said, the safety, the reliability, or whatever, the fuel mileage, not fuel mileage, but the range or whatever, not ever having to buy gas again, whatever they said, I would then turn that to say, those can be compromised if you don't have it repaired properly. Let's just pick safety. The safety can actually be really compromised if it's not repaired properly. Fortunately for you, we're OEM certified for Tesla, which that means that all of our guys in the shop back here all trained Tesla repair people. In fact, just look down this row of cars here. You see all these Teslas here that are been dropped off? And then if you got a second, just poke your head in the door there. You see all the Teslas that are in there? There's a reason all these Teslas are here. This is where people come to get their Tesla fixed in this town. And now let's talk about the claim. So have you filed a claim yet? "No, I haven't filed a claim." "Well, no problem. I can help you with that. I do this every day. Why don't you come in the office here, have a seat, I'll get you a bottle of water, and let's call your insurance company together. Let's see if I can get you leaving in a rental today, and let's get this thing done now." And then get the customer in, call the insurance company, get them to file a claim, hand them the phone, whatever, ask for permission to help them, on their behalf, whatever you do at that moment to get the claim going. And then see if you can get them leaving in a rental, depending on what insurance they have and all that stuff. And the second person, same deal. With that brand new Tesla, I would have said, "My God, this is a brand new Tesla." why'd you buy it? Why'd you choose this car? Again, walking them through the same thing. Just kind of get a reason why they are attached to this vehicle and leverage that in hey, if you don't, there's a difference in who fixes your vehicle, and this thing that you care about on your car could be at stake if not repaired properly. Fortunately for you, we are the experts in this. What you want to know is that they are in the right place. You chose wisely, sir. You're here. You're where this problem comes to disappear, right?
Right.
And so that's the difference. And then that particular shop, that particular person, their close ratio was like in the 30% range, and just get them from 30 to even in the 50% range. Guess what? Just 2.5 more customers a week would have got them in the 50% range. 50%, getting everybody, all the estimators to a 50% close ratio in a year's time would have put almost $1 million into that shop without having to without having to spend a penny in marketing. These are people coming to the shop because of this Tesla. They're, the hardest thing, I think, in collision repair is to convince a customer to not go to the DRP shop. And this shop had two people standing right there with the car right there. Mm-hmm. Like that's the goal, right?
Right.
And they both times said, "Come back when I can do my job." So that what happens is the human, like we all get into a groove with our job, and we forget, like these people, the customers coming in, you forget that they're customers and this is their first time. This is your 1 billionth time. And so you go into this robotic procedure. The human nature is you got to kind of remember to knock yourself out of that.
Right.
Like treat every day at work like it's
so.
Yeah, treat every day at work like it's your first day. How do you get your people to do that? That's a tough thing,
Right. So you got to fix that problem. Obviously, you've got to make sure that your salespeople are actually, saying and doing the right things when the car is literally there for them to take. Once you fix that, how can they track it? How can they fix sort of some of these other problems? How can they make sure that even if they did let the person walk out of the shop without some sort of agreement that day, how do you make sure they're actually calling them back and doing all the follow-up and stuff like that they need to do?
Yeah, so that's when you got to be a manager. You got to put on your manager pants, and be a manager. But the problem is there aren't any tools out there except we're fixing that, which I'll talk about in a second. But there really is nothing, everyone has a management system, but the management system, it's a CRM, but it's not really built as a CRM. It's more of an estimating platform and a production data collector. It's like where all the data, it's where the parts go, it's where the schedule goes, it's where the customer insurance information goes, it's where the notes go. But there's nothing, it's not, and I'm talking specifically CCC here, but I don't know Mitchell as well, but like a typical CRM, like if I'm a salesperson, like HubSpot, right? We used HubSpot in my marketing agency, and I had salespeople working for me, and we had a CRM and it had every customer and what stage they were at, and I could go in there and I could monitor, and it would send reminders and all that kind of stuff. The management platforms don't really have that. At least to my knowledge, they don't have it. And if they do have it, I have yet to see a shop really use those tools. Now I know there's things like Buy Shop Booster that promote themselves as kind of like a sales CRM, but I don't see anything that's like putting, they used to call them, when I sold trade shows, they like tickler files, like put the tickler on there where it sends you a note like, hey, it's been 3 days, you need to call this person. I don't, they're definitely not CRM first, right? So there's a need for tools to keep this front and center. It can be very basic. Like if you ever buy a car, this is the example I always give. You buy a car, you walk in, and you start kind of like, hey, I want to look at this Mustang, right? And boom, you hand that driver's license over, and your name's going on a whiteboard, sucker Zoebelein right here, like Mustang.
They're never leaving you alone again. Yeah.
Yeah. And that name doesn't come off that board until probably the end of the day, right? And on that same board is the number of cars they're trying to sell for the month and where they're at for the week and how many opportunities they've got on the floor right now. I guarantee you'll see this at every dealership. And so they're, at a minimum, having something like that, right? Like having some kind of, I don't care if it's a spreadsheet or what, but if you can put every, last name, vehicle, year and make, and, Jones, Tesla, Jones, 22 Tesla, working, right? Like you're working that deal and the estimator's name. Mm-hmm. That alone, I think if you got your people to do that and we're vigilant about monitoring that and staying on that and getting, like, it's like working out. It's a muscle that you're going to have to pump up. You're going to have to get into the habit of doing that. That's probably the most basic, free, cheap way of doing it. Because the close ratio is such a problem. So that same shop that I was telling you about, that owner called me beginning of the year asking me to help them get information on like insurance steering. They said, listen, I'm really cash flow is a problem right now. I feel like I'm being steered heavily, and I need to sue these, people, right? I need data, And so they had a meeting with the Department of Insurance, and they were going to try to solve that problem via solve a car count and cash flow problem with the DOI. Well, it's just not going to happen. Like that's just not what they do, right? They're not going to investigate it, and then. And even if they did, let's just pretend that you can magic wand that DOI could solve this problem for you, or suing the insurance companies would solve this problem for you. That's not a today fix. That's a year from now fix. So CCC has a report. And it's called I'm going to cobble the name together here, but it's basically something like a closed opportunity by estimator report or something like that. It doesn't sound like close ratio report, but it's something like that. And what that'll do is that'll export out all your opportunities, estimator name, opportunity count, closed count, and it has percent on there. So I grabbed that sheet from this owner and I ran the math for him, and I said, listen, if you could get these two estimators right here from 37% and 42% close ratio to just 52%. And 52% I'm plucking out of the air. But that was what Shane said that he thinks the real close ratio is, which that's a whole other thing we talk about is like what perceived close ratio is. Mm-hmm. But if I said if you could get these two people to get from here to 52%, your shop would be making, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say it was another $160,000 a month in revenue. And I said, would that solve this problem today? He said, absolutely it would. And I said, well, to get there, this person needs to close 1.8 more a week, and this one needs to close 2.5 more a week. So like 4 more customers a week. Right. So I said, do you think you could do that? I mean, and the thing is, these are not. You need to go find 4 more opportunities. These are just 4 opportunities that need to say yes. Handing you the keys to my vehicle, and get that car in the door. So the car that was in the door, you just need to get them to commit to you. Is really what it boils down to, right? So that's all you have to do. You don't have to spend $1 in marketing. You don't have to spend $1 in anything. Just if you think you could ride their asses a little bit and track this, even with a spreadsheet, and so they. And this was like a couple of hours of like trying to talk this guy down from, I need to sue the insurance companies. The insurance companies are my problem, to realizing that no, you are your problem, and your people are your problem. And so I ran them out. The one person was literally costing the business $462,000 a year by not being at a 52% close ratio. The other one was in the $300,000. So between the two of them, we're talking almost. It was like around $800,000-ish in that they're costing the business. And when I say costing the business, because they're not performing at least a 50% close ratio.
And you think
closing
50%
every other customer
is like a is sort of the low end of a benchmark, or?
I mean, Mike Anderson says it should be 75%.
Wow.
If you could talk to, because again, these are people that have you got to understand where you are in the sales cycle too, right? So this is not like a discovery. Like if I was to sell, like selling software, right? So you do a discovery and it's like, or even selling my marketing services. So we would do like a call, right? And so it was a discovery call. We were going to learn about each other. Here's tell me about your shop. Tell me about your challenges. What have you tried that doesn't work? Here's what we offer. Here's how we charge for it. Here's how fast it works. And here's customers I've done. So that's discovery call. So then it moves to the next thing and the next thing, right? You don't have to do that in collision. A customer came in the car. You're looking at it. It's damaged. You just got to get them leaving a rental or leaving the car there, right? Or signing a contract. Like we interviewed John Brown on here. He gets them to sign a contract. He didn't care what happens at that point because they've signed that legal contract to have them fix the car so they can leave in it, come back when it's ready. But they can't get steered against with at that point. So he doesn't have to worry about the insurance company convincing this person that no, come take it here. We're not going to deal with that guy. So he has sold the job at that point, right? So that's what it boils down to is raising that close ratio. So yes, the 52% number, I think it's easy to get to because you're already sold. They're already here, right? It's really not that hard to move them to the next step. And so, as an example of that same shop owner, I called him a week later to check in on him, see how it was going. He said the shop is slammed. He spent one day calling back all the leads in the pipeline, and he booked in enough work that he slammed the shop. It fixed it in one day, yep. Right? And so now the trick is to stay consistent with that. Yep. And so that night, actually, I went on Replit and I built a leads a close ratio tool, right? I was just so frustrated with his frustration that I was like, I can fix this for you. And so I built this tool that you just upload you pull that report out of CCC. It's a PDF or Excel or whatever it comes out in. You upload it into this free tool, and we'll put a link here in the notes. And it'll show you your close ratio by estimator and where they are to 52%. And how much money they're costing you by not being at 52%. How many customers they need to close a week to get to 52%, and what your real number is going to be when they're at 52%. Then it's got a little slider you can play with. Say, well, what if I can get them to 62%? What's that number look like? What if I can get them to 82%? What's that number look like? So it'll calculate all that out. Now, one of the things that it will do, but we didn't make this piece of it live yet, has that leaderboard. So where you can, because we felt like shops are going to use it for a minute and then it's just not going to be a muscle that they use, and so they're not going to be consistently putting the names up there. So what we are doing now is we have if you are a Reclaimer customer, as we're launching the Reclaimer here in the next couple of weeks, you'll have access to this tool, and it will pull all your leads into it. So it'll have that leaderboard for you, and it'll be completely automated. So you don't have to, you don't have to, put anything in it. It'll just run, and then you just want to check where you're at every week, every day, and then it'll track over time your estimators close ratio over time. So if you want to see, are things improving, sales wise, you'll be able to see that. It tracks all that for you. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's really, I think with all sorts of sales, it's really the same, but especially with your car, they bring you your car, they want to know that you're going to take good care of it, do a good job, and that you're going to follow up. And so making sure that that's happening can really increase the close ratio, but you don't know until you're tracking it. So
you have to measure it.
Helpful. Yeah, you have to measure it. So we know you've got this tool, and I think that really feeds into something that we see a lot with body shops, which is the perceived close ratio. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So whenever I would do a call with a client, that was, concerned about car count and needed more leads, I would ask them about, the close ratio, and they say, listen, man, just get them here, and we close almost everything that, we capture those keys. We close almost everything that comes through the door. And I think that is the perceived reality, but I think that if you were to study if you study this report, it'll tell you what the real reality is, that close ratio report. But I think that you'll be shocked to see that's a lot lower. To me, a perceived when we close everything would mean that you're in the 80+ range. Which I think is doable, again, for the same reasons. If you're an independent shop and they brought you the car, the heavy lifting is done. That's the thing that shops need to walk away understanding. If they're here, you should be able to close 80 to 100%. It should be very rare that you don't get somebody. There's a few shops, Mid-Island Collision in New York, Larry Montanez and those guys. They close everything. They put those people in a rental car, and they're keeping that car there. But that is not the norm. Mm-hmm. What is the norm is you think you're closing everything until you're hiring a marketing agency because the shop is dead. And you think, well, it can't be our people. It's got to be something else. It's, not enough cars out there. And again, if the pool of cars to fix is shrinking and your close ratio stays the same, your car count's going to shrink. But if your pool of cars is shrinking and the pool of cars is shrinking, but your close ratio increases, you're going to have the same as or more work to do, cars to fix.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require a dollar of marketing,
Right.
So, that's that. And so I think again, perceived close ratio is disproportionate to what your real close ratio is.
Well, and knowledge is power. Once you know, and once you actually dig into it, and I think that's really, it's fascinating, and also human nature to think, well, it's not my people. My people are doing great. And to us, it seems, I think probably to everybody, it seems like if the car is there, they drove up in the car, it should be easy to close. And if that's not happening, then there's clearly a problem. So that's why, tracking it, whether with this tool or on a board or however, is so important because, having that knowledge is power, so you can make some changes. But
and also on that tool, when you mark, so I talked about how it has the leaderboard. On there, you can mark won or lost, and then you have to mark why. So this tool uses AI. It also has an AI thing where it's going to start studying the why. So you have to mark, went to a different shop, said we were too expensive, whatever the reason is, whatever they tell you why they're not choosing you, ghosted us, whatever, doesn't matter. It'll start to study and then start to give you suggestions on how to fix your close ratio problem. So it's not just a identifying tool; it's a helping tool. And when we had the marketing agency, there's a lot of churn in any business, right? But in marketing agency, it's pretty brutal. It's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to sell it. Is just because it's just can kind of feel like a treadmill a little bit sometimes. You land new business, you lose business, land new business, lose business, and you do it for the same reason. Like shops get busy. Well, we don't need this right now, or we're not even looking at the leads. But the other frustrating thing would be when a customer would say, I would get a call. This is actual. These guys just sold their shop, but they the shop that I worked with I built this whole branded the entire shop. Logos. I was there from day one when they started this thing, 6 years. And, I get a call from hey, Tom, we're just not feeling it with the marketing. Well, really, what does that mean? Yeah, we're just not feeling it. Just don't feel like it's really working. And so I said, okay, well, let me pull your latest report and then we take a look at it. And then I would look at it and say, well, it says here you got, 23 leads last month and, 18 the month before, and whatever the count was. And so you're telling me that these people, not one of these people became an actual customer. These are leads that came. So I should mention one thing too, a little bit unique to our agency, but not unique. We had a lead gen tool. We basically built our own little piece of body shop booster where you could send photos or book an appointment. But what we did with that tool is it had what's called a unified tracking metric, a UTM. And that UTM was tied back to whatever ad we were running. So if it was a geofence ad, it would show up in that big dashboard that I built as, Joe Smith, Toyota Camry, geofence ad, Joe Jones, whatever, Facebook ad. So I had a lot of marketing agencies, they will deliver you these reports, and it's like clicks and visits and things like that. And the really bad ones will do stuff like they'll say like, well, what's your close ratio? Oh, it's 75%. Okay, great. What's your average repair order? Oh, it's $4,500. Okay, so here's 250 clicks to your website. So you close 75% of those for this amount of money. This is your ROI on what you spent with us. They try to convert clicks to somehow close sales. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many marketing agencies I saw that. We delivered names on a page. I always tell my people, if you can't deliver a name on a page, it's all BS work. It's why have us, right? It's irrelevant. They want to know who did you bring us, not what. Like who did you bring us? So I would have those names at the ready, and I had names and phone numbers and where the leads came from. These 10 came from geofencing, these 5 came from Facebook ad, these came from whatever. And they only got there because they went to landing pages that you could not access through anywhere else on the website. So I would say, okay, well, you're not feeling it. So these 23 people, they just never showed up, or like they had cars you couldn't fix, or like trying to diagnose like what's going on here. And so they would say, you got 23 leads? I say, yeah, 23 leads, and then 17 the month before that, and whatever the month before that. Let me see those numbers. Let me see those names. Because I would say they're not in your CCC. Give me your login. Let me check. Let me see these numbers. So go through the thing, send them the numbers. And then I get a call a week or two later. Yeah, we're going to cancel. We're just not feeling it. Say, okay, so those numbers, you called all of them. Not one of those people showed up at the shop, right? No, I didn't get around to it. But we just want to cancel, right? And so that is the owner saying that, let alone what his people were doing, right? So that's the other thing in this is if you're an owner and you're hiring a marketing company, and you're not policing that your leads are getting followed up on, you're pissing money away, right? You're just burning cash, because what your people are going to do is they're going to call the ones that are coming in through CCC. If it's an open shop assignment and you do open shop assignments, or they're walking in the front door or whatever. But if it's a lead coming from a third party, like we were a third party being a marketing agency, that's not on their. That's not what they do, right? It's not, you have to build the culture around that. This is, guys, I'm paying money for this. And by God, you better be calling these people. And so that was the, like, make sure that if your marketing agency is good enough that they can deliver names on a page, make sure that your people are calling those names on a page. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're calling those names on a page, because those are your leads. Those are people that we found from going somewhere. Like those leads, those would be people that went to a Caliber. We were geofencing people that were at another location. That's how they were seeing our ads. They would, if they were Caliber or Joe's Body Shop down the road or whatever, that's what triggered our ad campaigns. So these are people that were at another shop, were captured and triggered an ad campaign. The campaign said, getting auto body repair, you deserve a second opinion. click here to start. They followed through that, clicked the ad, they clicked the landing page, they sent the photos, and they showed up in our reports. And I handed them over to you automatically. Actually, they automatically went, and your people can call them.
And no one called.
And no one called them.
Yeah.
But it's my fault. It's my fault, and you're going to cancel with me. And that, how do you fix that? If I had to do it all over again, Stratosphere Studio would have been half marketing. Not even half, 25% marketing, 75% sales focus. Yeah. Like sales consulting, because the marketing is not even half the battle.
Right. So
the close ratio is.
Boil it down here. It's, yes, do your marketing, hire your marketing firm, but it's not going to fix all your problems unless these other things are in order. So hire your marketing firm, call the leads that they actually give you, and track the close ratio, and those three things together can get more cars in the shop.
And Morgan, I'm going to tell you, this is not unique to collision repair. Like, I'm not pointing the finger at body shops. So before getting in the marketing agency world, I was in the trade show world, right? So we would do these giant trade show booths. I did Under Armour's trade show booth, a $500,000 exhibit. It would cost them almost $100,000 every time that thing went to a show, and they did shows all year long, right? And at the booth, they have these little lead machines, right? And you swipe your badge, and then it would print out this little receipt. And so the show would close, the booth would come back. It would, sometimes take a week if it was in Vegas, we came back to our office in Baltimore. And then it wouldn't get touched again until it was going to the next show. Could be next month, could be 3 months from now. So the first thing we would do is we'd pull that booth, all the crates out, we would inspect for damages ahead of time, make sure we didn't need to touch anything up or fix anything. And lo and behold, what do you think we would find in those crates? All the leads from the trade show. It didn't matter if it was a cancer oncology show. It didn't matter if it was SEMA. Didn't matter if, I'm trying to think of some of the industries I worked in, the CES. Didn't matter. The leads, they just don't get followed up on. So it's not a collision repair problem. It's just a problem. And I don't know that I have the full answer to it, other than what we're doing with Reclaimer, with not just the sales tracking tool, but we have this really cool thing that's going to be completely unique to the collision industry, where it's going to help you sell an estimate, right? So when you do get that customer and you call that customer and they come in and you go through the whole rigmarole, and you finally get to the point where you're handing them off an estimate. What does an estimate look like to a customer? It's just a bunch of lines and a big, scary price tag, $12,000, $5,800. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just a bumper. Like, I just got tapped by my neighbor. Like, what? I don't know. And then you got the insurance company in their ear saying, yeah, it's expensive. Don't go there. Go to Caliber. It'll be half the price, right? And so everything's working against you. Even getting them in the door and all that stuff, handing them that estimate is not enough. It's the close ratio doesn't end at getting them to the estimate point. It ends when they have dropped that car off, and that has gone through that first real teardown estimate, and they're committed now. That car is in the work process. It's not going to get steered out. So that's when sales' job ends. So this tool that we built with Reclaimer, it takes that estimate and it makes it a visual explainer. It's like a 5-6 pager. Yeah. Takes every line item and it makes like a graphical image with an explanation. But the beauty of that tool is we did that. We're doing that for your estimators. Like, nobody has to create that. It does it automatically. It pulls the estimate in automatically, creates the sales explainer automatically. It's just a function of the product. Mm-hmm. And shops, can try it free when we get it launched here in a few weeks. But that's the other thing I want to talk about, close ratio. Beyond tracking it is to know when does the sale end, and then customer service start. The customer service starts when those parts are ordered and that car is moving into production. Mm-hmm. It's body work has begun. That's when the handoff. Same guy, same person, doing it, right? Same CSR, updating the customer on status that was selling it. But when you're hiring for front office people, you need to think and interview for sales type roles. You need to find, and I also have this tool, this free tool also that we built is a human resource tool that it will help you build out questions to ask on an interview. So if you are looking to hire a front office person, CSR, estimator, whatever, and you want to make sure they got good sales chops, that tool will for free help you match the questions to ask to probe for that, and then we'll grade that prospects job candidates answers, on that, and it's a lot of psychological stuff built into it. So that's AI built too, AI driven too. So it'll build those questions based on your shop, your culture, your specific job needs. But if you put in there that this person needs to sell, it'll help you create interview questions to ask your candidates. So that's another free tool that we built to help shops with this problem also.
So, Tom, I'm not sure we solved the problem today, but we at least came up with the 3 easy steps to help the owner solve the problem for themselves. But I think that's all the time we have for today. I'm sure I'll be back in the future, but next week you'll get Tom again or next time you'll get Tom again with some other shop owners.
Yep.
And that's it for today. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thanks, guys.